Welcome in, Hawks fans, to another Bleav in Hawks episode. It's your boy Bryce Willis back at it again with more Hawks content and news happening with our favorite team, the Atlanta Hawks. Hope you guys are doing well. Obviously, looking forward to this episode. We have a lot to talk about on today's episode. Even in the middle of a, dead period in the NBA, there are still discussions that are being had on Hawks socials, and I like to bring some of that to this episode, to this podcast, so I can give my thoughts. Obviously, before we get into that, don't forget to subscribe. We watch this on YouTube, like the video, show some love to the kid. If you're listening through audio, leave a rating, leave a review. Also, show love to the kid so more Hawks fans can be exposed to this podcast as this podcast continues to grow. As I actually should be coming up, or if not already, I think I hit a 1 year mark for this podcast just very recently. So 1 year of Bleav in Hawks. So really appreciate all the joy, support that you guys have shown me during this journey with this podcast. And we hope to continue to keep that going moving forward as we continue on. As a new season is on the horizon, training camp will be back in a month and a half. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. So I'm not going to necessarily talk about players first. I'm going to talk about something that's affecting the fans. On Tuesday, if you guys have been to a Hawks game before, there is a section called the six-man section. The Hawks have had for a few years now, where guys, as far as I believe, if I get anything wrong here, definitely correct me. Guys try out for that section. It's a very loud section. It's almost like it's the most, you can maybe say, most college part of State Farm Arena for Hawks games is that six-man section. Just a section of just the biggest Hawks fans who show their love to the team, excitement, loud, different chants. They've been featured on Bleacher Report before for certain chants they've made towards players. Just a really good group of people. I know some of the people. I know Adnan, who is the leader of the six-man group as well. They recently received some news on Tuesday that the six-man section is gone. Apparently, they received an email saying that they will no longer have that section. So there was a lot of outrage about that on Twitter. From everything I saw, because I mainly focus on Twitter, I'm sure there was probably some outrage on Facebook as well, even Hawks Reddit, et cetera, et cetera. But many members who were part of that section tweeted out about how disappointed they were with the decision. The belief is that it's because that Tony Ressler, they're looking at this as a Tony Ressler decision. He wants to make those tickets available to the public to potentially make more money off of those seats. And so a lot of people are from that section, and a lot of Hawks fans who enjoy that section. If you've ever sat near that section, you know how rowdy it can be. Enjoy having that in the arena. Gives a unique section to wear in the arena for Hawks fans and Hawks support, of course. And so it's one of those things where, it sucks to hear that for sure. Now, obviously, right now we're kind of in a bit of a middle period in terms of like what exactly is going on. If I can find this tweet for you, because the AJC has been on top of this since it's happened. Because apparently, according to Chris, and I may butcher his last name, Villamore, from the AJC, he mentions that the Hawks will have a six-man section this season. It's just being rebranded. That is the word. It's being rebranded. So, and there's been no extra details really given. There's been a lot of speculation. There's been speculation that they could allow you to still be six men. You just have to pay for those seats on a game-by-game basis. There has been, and the price may be the same as lower level seats, or they'll just bring it back. Obviously, multiple, like I said, people who are a part of that section, like I said, were upset because they were under the impression it was done, it was finished, it was finito, and that's what caused the outrage in the community amongst that move. Because again, you're impacting the fan support of your team by telling people, yeah, we're going to change something that has been here for a while. And as far as I know, no one, as far as I'm aware, has had an issue with it. I think people like the 6-man section. I think, like I said, I've told you, like I said earlier in the video, I think it's funny. I think it's a great way to show support. It's a different, unique way. I don't know a lot of NBA teams that have 6-man sections, or considered a 6-man section in their own arenas. So for a change like that to be happening, and to get this type of pushback, obviously, I'm sure the Hawks see that and they're trying to potentially rectify it. Now, right now, like I said, there are no details on what this rebrand will be. So we'll know something closer to the season, according to Lauren Williams from the AJC. She said we will know more as the season approaches. So I know a lot of people are waiting to know what exactly is going to happen to that part of the arena, the 6-man section. So, obviously, like I mentioned before, it's not something that a lot of people are excited about. But apparently also from Lauren L. Williams, she mentioned that they have made repeated assurances, though, that the section would remain despite providing no further details. So we'll have to see what that ends up being. I just wanted to bring it up now. If anybody from the 6-man section watches this episode, listens to this episode, man, I support you guys. I hope you guys keep your section. I hope you guys can continue to cheer on the Hawks and provide that loud support, that Hawk fanatic energy in that arena in State Farm. And, we'll see what happens. Obviously, we have no idea what is going to happen. I'm not going to sit here and bash Tony Wrestler for that. We'll wait to see. We'll see what happens. But obviously, like I said, I know that made some people upset that was even being considered being taken away. And that's very understandable. I mean, imagine if you're a part of a group that you've had for multiple years that has only been a positive, like I said, as far as I know, in the community. And then people, like I said, because to do the 6-man section, you got to be pretty dedicated. Like you pretty much try to go to every single game, you every home game, and you cheer the team every time. You're excited, you're loud. Like those are for the biggest Hawks fans. I mean, you've seen the head, the player heads, everything. Like that is, like I said, the college part of State Farm Arena when the Hawks play in that atmosphere. So hopefully that all gets worked out and resolved, and hopefully it's not too big of an issue moving forward. And hopefully everything is resolved in a very urgent but also professional manner, and no other issues arise. But we'll see what happens as we continue to move forward. And if you guys have any thoughts as well on that, definitely leave your comments down below. What do you think of the 6-man being rebranded? Are you a fan of it? Are you not a fan of it? Are you, what is your thoughts on this situation? So definitely don't be afraid to let me know that as well. But now let's get into some basketball talk here with the Hawks. So, I've been scanning around. Like I said, I keep my ear to the streets. On Twitter. There's been some discussion about Zach Lavine again. A video just came out recently of Zach Lavine and Trae Young working out, playing some pickup ball together. Obviously, this is, like I said, that time where you see a lot of players playing pickup ball with other guys, and Trae and Lavine were playing together. And people started asking the question again about Zach Lavine to the Hawks. Why is that? Why is the Hawks not pursuing Zach Lavine? Would Zach Lavine be a good fit? What exactly is the perception of Zach Lavine? Obviously, this is a guy who did not have the greatest year last year, missed a lot of games, missed the majority of the season. Obviously, we heard that the Bulls have been wanting to move off of Zach Lavine. He has not been apparently the biggest favorite in the locker room for certain guys. So there's been some questions about if the Bulls should move off of Zach Lavine. Apparently, earlier this offseason, when the offseason started, they wanted to apparently move Zach Lavine and put a first-round pick attached to him to try to move him, and no one bit. One of the big issues with Zach Lavine is his contract. He is getting paid buku amount of money, and nobody wants to pay his salary. So that's really what's making it extremely difficult for Zach Lavine to be traded. basically to any team that may have a slither of interest in him. His cap hit this coming season will be $43 million. If you remember, he signed a 5-year max deal in 2022 with the Bulls for $215 million. Obviously, Zach, that is elite player money. And Zach Lavine is a good player, but no one views him as an elite player. And again, if for a lot of teams, especially with that second apron and all of that, it's going to be very hard for some team to want to take on that contract and take on Zach Lavine, even if he's a talented player. He's only 29 years old, so he's still in his prime right now. But $43 million for a guy you don't view as a star, that's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of teams. Then 2025, $45 million, and then his player option year, if it'll be $48 million. Technically, essentially 49. So, because he won't be a free agent again until 2027. Zach Lavine, like I said, only played 25 games last year, dealt with injuries last year. He's been a scorer in Chicago, had 25 the year, 2022, 2023 year, and then the year previously after that, 24, then 28, 25, 24. So when he's been in Chicago, he scored the ball, but obviously the Bulls have not had that much success as a team, and there has been, like I said, rumors and questions about chemistry. Do players like him, his commitments to the game, things of that nature. So when we talk about the fit with the Hawks, a lot of people have wondered why the Hawks may not want to go there. First thing is the most obvious thing for like most teams is money. The Hawks do not want to pay Zach Lavine $43 million because that will put them firmly in the second apron. And as of right now, they can't because they have capped out in terms of how high their salary can go. So if they make a move like that, clearly they'd have to make matching salaries. So you have to give up a few of your bigger contracts for Zach Lavine, right? But like I said, do you want to commit 43, 45, and like $46 million to him the next 2 years? I just that's the big thing that I think stops any team, including the Hawks, is just you just got off DeJounte, who was on a better contract, to take on a worser contract for a player who maybe some people think either is the same as DeJounte, maybe a little bit worse, maybe a little bit better, depending on who you are, but paying him much, much more. And like I said, with that second apron severely limiting what you can do with the team, it's just in today's NBA, guys like Zach Lavine are going to be struggling to be moved just because teams just don't have. If some team, if we had the old CBA and we had this, what you could have done before with taking on contracts like that and paying luxury checks, there may be a team that's just like, screw it. We need another guy who can score the ball. We can pay some luxury tax. Owner doesn't care. Sure, let's bring him on in. Now with how that's changed, it's just hard to make a reasonable reason to bring him in financially, unless you are a rebuilding basketball team who has a buku amount of space. Which, I mean, if you think the Hawks are rebuilding, fine, but they're not like rebuilding like Pistons rebuilding, where they were taking on bad contracts on purpose because they had a lot of cap room. You Hawks have a pretty firm cap right now where they are in terms of money that they can allocate. They don't have a lot of money to work with. So it wouldn't be, I think, the greatest move financially, clearly, for the team to even consider Zach Lavine. Now, in terms of fit, my thing about the fit is we just tried a 2-guard star combo and it didn't work. I don't think it's worth going back and trying another 2-guard star combo again. And this is also something I say too. Let's just say, okay, I know I said this is about the play, but you're paying him $43 million, right? If Jalen Johnson's about to be your star guy and he ends up earning max money, you cannot pay Trae Young, Zach Lavine, and Jalen Johnson all max money. Again, with today's CBA, you're going to have to significantly thin out your roster if you do that. And obviously, yeah, they have a lot of young players and everything like that, but that may keep you from signing other future young players to big contracts if they end up panning out because of that. And so I don't want Jalen's role to be affected. If he's going to be the number 2 guy, let's see what he can do. I've always said it. At the end of the day, you got to see what he can do. No reason to kind of beat around the bush. No reason to try to keep waiting. No reason to try to keep pushing that back. Let him be the number 2 guy. Just let it happen. See what happens. Because I don't want Zach Lavine being brought in to affect the development of Jalen Johnson. But at the same time, again, Trey and Zach have to then figure out how to play with each other. You know, in Chicago, it was Lavine and DeRozan pretty much. And then you had some young guards, Kobe White, you know, things like that. But they weren't as ball dominant as Trae Young's going to be. And DeMar really isn't ball dominant, even though he can be ball dominant if called upon in that way. So again, would they be able to play off of each other? Because like I said, the thing we have to think about these pickup runs, guys, is they're not playing the defense they're going to be playing in the games. Pickup ball is random play. You know, you're you're playing with a bunch of random guys because any of these guys can hoop with each other because hoop is hoop. Hoop is hoop. But within the NBA game, okay, we hooping, but does it work in a competitive, we're trying to win situation? And I don't know if it does. Like I get why people would see it that way. Well, he can bring us scoring, and it's Zach Lavine, and And I'm just like, okay, but I mean, scoring isn't the problem for the Hawks. I personally don't think the Hawks are going to still struggle to score without DeJounte this year. I think they'll be a close to, if not a top 10 offense to me, because they've been that way under Trey, even when he was solo dolo. So I don't, and I think now with Quinn Snyder's schemes being able to be implemented more this year, I think you'll continue to see that. The biggest thing you need to improve is your defensive prowess. Zach Lavine is not known as a defender. So you bring him in, let's say you have to trade like Hunter because everybody hates him. And let's say you trade Capella, right? I mean, as much as y'all hate them, they're on this team, they're some of your better defenders. You kind of didn't improve defensively. And so now we're back where we started, where we're just an offensive juggernaut. But who's getting stops? So you can't just say Dyson stop everybody. Like, you got to have other people who can stop guys. So it just realistically, what you maybe have to give up for him wouldn't be ideal to me. Now, you guys may have a completely different opinion, and that is completely fine. And if you do, leave your comment down below. I'm all for it. But to me, I just don't see it. I don't, personally. I think that it just wouldn't fit. Financially, would not fit. And I don't. What this team needs is not what Zach Lavine brings. The thing is, y'all keep thinking we need a 20-point-a-game score, and I'm like, guys, offense is not the problem here. It's not. It's defense. They've wanted to improve this defense. So if they can get a more accomplished two-way guy, then I'm all for it. But someone who's an offensive juggernaut like a Zach Lavine, and I'm not even saying Zach Lavine's bad at defense. He's not a player who's going to come in and change you defensively and impact the game defensively. That's not what he's known for. That's not his game. So to me, that's why I'm like, if we want to, if you guys think that he would be a good fit, okay. But I just don't see it for me with this team because I don't want Jalen Johnson being impacted. We don't know how Trey and him would even mesh together. We have no clue how that would work. I don't know if you want to put Quinn through another season of like, can you make this backcourt work? Because now it just seems like you're just throwing pieces at the wall and saying, make it work. And it's like, guys, we just got to find guys. You have to figure out what type of basketball you want to play, what kind of team you want to build, and build the team. And you're good. Simple as that. So that's just my thoughts on Zach Lavine coming in. If you guys have a different opinion, of course, definitely, like I said, leave it down below. Let me know what you think of the Zach Lavine to the Hawks, because I think people are going to always ask that question. We'll see how the season how we enter the season, and so on and so forth at that 2 spot. and we'll kind of go from there. Now, that does lead me into a player, Bogdan Bogdanovic. I remember during the Olympics, especially in the game against USA, Bogi was the second best player on that Serbian team. Some people were saying, why don't Bogi play like this for us? Now, obviously, different type of game. Obviously, she's the second best player on the team. So his role is different. And Bogi, which you've seen, has always been capable. It's just, again, what is your role? What are you asking him to do? What is what do you want from Bogdanovic, right? That's kind of the big thing here. Like, what do you want from him? You're not just going to ask him to do that for no reason, right? I think Bogi, if he does start, he'll be asked to provide, obviously, offense. He was one of the top scorers off the bench last year. We know what he can provide. 3-point shooting can get hot. He had like a 40-point game against Denver last year. He definitely is a guy who him and Trey have had success together as a backcourt. They have won games. That was our Eastern Conference Finals backcourt. So there are some positives to this unit. And one thing I always said about this team in general is that the fit. Bogi and Trey play very well off of each other. They do. You can't deny that. They do. They play very well off of each other because Bogi is a shooter and he can move without the ball. And so I think that has always been why the chemistry between the two have been so strong. Now, in terms of if he's a starter or not, that could dictate. Coming off the bench, he may have a different role than if, hey, we need you to be a starter. That may be a bit of a different role for him too. I think Bogi, obviously, the big thing for him is he actually had one of his most healthiest seasons this past year. One of the top 3 Hawks in games played. But still, you wonder about his knee, how are knees holding up. He played, I believe he played international ball last year. Then he played this season. Then just played the Olympics. So Bogi has been playing a lot of basketball in the last year and a half. A lot of basketball. He hasn't had the normal breaks like these guys have. So does that go into your thought process when thinking about playing him? I know some people have brought up maybe you allow Bogi to sit some games. I don't see that happening, but maybe they have him sit preseason. Don't really play him. Let him rest up. Let him get himself right. Just make sure he's good to go before the season starts and go from there. And then you can experiment with Dyson and Trey in the backcourt in the preseason. Or Kobe too. Kobe's a guy I've heard his name come up a bit as well. But, I think Bogi, what he's going to be asked to do this year, obviously, is to run his offense. I think Bogi and Snyder have really good chemistry with each other. I think this offense works really well for Bogi. It helps him get open. Obviously, this offense will help create good looks for him, different sets, off screens, things like that. That's why Bogi, I think, had one of his best years under Quinn. That's not a coincidence. I think that's just a product of the system they're running. Obviously, a lot of dribble handoffs, a lot of things like that can help create motion because obviously he wants spacing and motion. And for guys like Bogi, he creates spacing and motion, which then helps the rest of the team execute the offense. So I think overall, and then Bogi can play make at times. Bogi can. That is a very underrated skill of Bogdanovic, is that he can play make. He can run it a little bit. I mean, people forget during these conference finals, he played some point guard for the team when Trey came off the floor. So he can play make a little bit. He can run the ship a little bit. He could take pressure off some guys. I see him as a guy, if Kobe's on the floor, you may want a guy like Bogi on the floor just to help take some pressure off of him, if possible. He could initiate some sets. He can initiate some actions and kind of let it dictate from there. Obviously, we'll have to see how everything's connected, like Jalen and them. But overall, I think Bogi is in a position to have another strong year for this team. I know people have asked, should we trade Bogi? I think this team's trying to be competitive, so I don't see that being the case. But I think that Bogi is in line to, even if he came off the bench or started, to be effective. And that's one valuable thing about Bogdanovic, is regardless if he's starting or he's coming off the bench, he can be effective either way for you. You just have to figure out what's the best way to use him, which I think him and Quinn have kind of figured that out and know how to. So I think overall, I think that puts them in a really good spot for Bogi to really have a strong year in this year, in the second full year with Quinn Snyder. Definitely leave your thoughts down below in the comments. What you think about Bogi's year coming up? What are your expectations? What would you like to see from him this year? Whether that is as a bench player or as a starter for this team, and what you think his role will be, or what you think the best way to use him will be for this team to find success this season. So we're gonna definitely see about that for sure. But I think that's about it here on Bleav in Hawks. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Like I said, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Bryce_2K, across all platforms. Then obviously leave a subscribe so the video to watch this on YouTube, please also like the video. And then also same thing for if you're listening to audio, or other podcast platform you're listening to this on, leave a rating and review and everything under the sun. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Bleav in Hawks. We'll be back with another episode next week, unless breaking news happens. See you next time.